The sealed letter crackles softly against worn stone as the lantern flame wavers in Thames-side dampness. Down here, beneath centuries of royal custody and ceremony, fog seeps through ancient masonry while somewhere above, the midnight watch begins its careful round. A single drop of river moisture falls from vaulted ceiling to cobblestone, echoing through passages that have witnessed the quiet machinery of crown governance for nearly 1,000 years. I am your DrowZy historian, and tonight we descend into the tour of London's most private hours, when sealed documents moved through hidden doorways and certain matters of state required the discretion that only darkness could provide. The Tower Green spreads before us under a crescent moon, its cobblestones worn smooth by centuries of ceremonial footsteps and administrative necessity. Here, where daylight brings tourists and pageantry, midnight reveals something altogether different. The yeoman warder adjusts his Tudor uniform against the October chill, brass lantern casting amber pools across stones that have absorbed the weight of royal history since William the Conqueror first raised these walls. His footsteps follow a pattern older than memory, each turn precisely timed, each pause calculated to the minute. The ceremonial changing of the night watch represents more than tradition. It signals the tower's transformation from public fortress to private palace, from daytime spectacle to nocturnal seat of governance. The mystery of what happens when London sleeps begins with this quiet ritual, performed by men whose families have served the crown for generations. But tonight something sets this warder apart from his daylight counterparts. Tucked beneath his ceremonial cloak, sealed papers rustle with each measured step. These documents bear no ordinary markings, no routine administrative stamps. Their wax seals remain unbroken, their contents known only to the highest levels of royal service. Why do certain warders carry sealed papers during night rounds? The question follows us across the green like shadow itself. The lantern light catches the weathered faces of surrounding towers, each structure serving its own carefully defined purpose in the tower's complex administrative ecosystem. The Bloody Tower houses not just historical memory, but active royal archives. The Wakefield Tower contains chambers where private hearings unfold beyond public scrutiny. The Salt Tower holds secure storage for documents too sensitive for daylight handling. Return attention gently to Tower Green at midnight, lantern light casting shadows across cobblestones. The mystery of what happens when London sleeps continues to unfold with each footfall, each turn of the ancient key. Our warder approaches the Byward Tower, its massive Norman architecture seeming to absorb moonlight rather than reflect it. Here, the outer defences give way to inner sanctums, public spaces transition to private chambers. His key ring bears more than ceremonial significance. Each bronze and iron piece unlocks not just doors, but layers of royal protocol developed over centuries of careful statecraft. The wind carries Thames moisture across the green, bringing with it the scent of river mud and distant coal smoke from London's sleeping hearths. This dampness has seeped into tower stones for nearly a millennium, creating the particular atmosphere that seems to slow time itself within these walls. The warder's lantern flame bends but never gutters, protected by brass and glass crafted specifically for these nocturnal rounds. Return attention gently to Tower Green at midnight, lantern light casting shadows across cobblestones. Why do certain warders carry sealed papers during night rounds? The sealed documents beneath his cloak seem to pulse with their own quiet urgency. Each tower window reveals its own story of midnight activity. In the White Tower, archivists work by candlelight, cataloguing documents that arrived by private courier after sunset. The Lanthorn Tower houses clerks preparing materials for dawn meetings that will never appear in public records. The Martin Tower contains secure chambers where certain royal advisors conduct business that requires both privacy and official sanction. The warder's route follows no random pattern, but traces a careful geometry of security and access, ensuring that each critical junction receives proper attention while maintaining the discrete movements necessary for sensitive governance. His brass lantern serves as both illumination and signal, its specific timing and placement communicating information to observers who understand the tower's nocturnal language. Return attention gently to Tower Green at midnight, lantern light casting shadows across cobblestones. The mystery of what happens when London sleeps deepens as we follow this ceremonial yet purposeful midnight round. The cobblestones beneath our feet have witnessed more than public ceremonies and tourist visits. They have absorbed the footsteps of royal messengers arriving with urgent dispatches, of foreign ambassadors seeking discreet audiences, of clerks carrying documents between secure chambers. Each stone holds memory of conversations conducted in whispers, of decisions made in candlelight, of the careful balance between public monarchy and private statecraft. As the warder approaches the entrance to Traitor's Gate, his lantern illuminates the water-worn steps that descend toward the Thames. Here, the tower's relationship with London's great river becomes apparent. The gate serves not merely as historical monument, but as active threshold between public waterway and private fortress, between the city's daily commerce and the Crown's most sensitive business. Return attention gently to Tower Green at midnight, lantern light casting shadows across cobblestones. Why do certain warders carry sealed papers during night rounds? The sealed documents seem to whisper their own secrets as river fog begins to rise from the Thames below. The Thames laps gently against stone steps worn smooth by centuries of careful use, each tide bringing its own rhythm to the tower's nocturnal activities. Traitor's Gate stands open to the river, its massive portcullis raised just enough to allow the passage of small boats whose arrivals never appear in official harbour records. The architectural purpose of this water entrance extends far beyond its historical reputation. It provides discreet access for visitors whose business requires both urgency and privacy. The stone archway frames a view of dark water that reflects torchlight from the tower's walls, creating patterns that dance with each gentle wave. This interplay of flame and water, stone and shadow, represents the tower's dual nature as both fortress and palace, both public institution and private seat of governance. The gate's position allows observation of river traffic while maintaining the discretion necessary for sensitive arrivals. What kind of visitors arrived by river under cover of darkness? The question echoes off wet stone as we consider the gate's practical advantages. River approach eliminates the need for public street travel, avoids the attention that horse-drawn carriages inevitably attract, and provides direct access to the tower's most secure chambers without passing through areas frequented by daytime staff or curious observers. The water stairs descend into Thames darkness, their worn surfaces testament to regular use by those whose business required both speed and secrecy. Royal messengers bearing urgent dispatches from continental courts, ambassadors seeking audience without diplomatic fanfare, clerks transporting documents too sensitive for land-based courier services. Each arrival followed protocols developed over centuries of careful statecraft. Return attention gently to Traitor's Gate viewed from Thames-side water stairs. What kind of visitors arrived by river under cover of darkness? The gate's massive stones seem to guard their secrets as carefully as they guard the tower itself. The architectural design reveals careful consideration of both security and accessibility. The gate's position allows guards to observe approaching vessels while remaining concealed themselves. Iron rings set into the water stairs provide secure mooring for boats of various sizes, from single-oared wherries to larger barges capable of transporting multiple passengers or substantial cargo. The stone steps, cut at angles that accommodate both low and high tide, ensure access regardless of Thames water levels. Torchlight from the tower walls creates shifting patterns on the dark water, illuminating the gate's interior just enough to guide legitimate arrivals while leaving the broader Thames approach in shadow. This careful balance of light and darkness represents the tower's approach to nocturnal governance: sufficient illumination for necessary business, adequate shadow for discretion. The river's gentle sounds provide natural masking for conversations conducted on the water stairs, while the gate's stone construction ensures that voices carry only as far as intended. Here, in this threshold space between public waterway and private fortress, some of the Crown's most delicate negotiations may have unfolded under cover of Thames fog and midnight darkness. Return attention gently to Traitor's Gate viewed from Thames-side water stairs. The gate's purpose extends beyond historical memory into the practical necessities of royal governance that required both accessibility and absolute discretion. The massive stones that form the gate's archway bear the marks of careful craftsmanship, each block fitted with precision that has withstood nearly 9 centuries of Thames tides and London weather. This Norman construction represents not just defensive capability, but administrative necessity, creating secure space for activities that required both royal sanction and public invisibility. Watermarks on the lower stones reveal the Thames' historical relationship with the tower, showing high tide levels that have remained remarkably consistent across centuries. This predictability allowed for careful timing of sensitive arrivals, ensuring that vessels could approach during optimal conditions while maintaining the security that darkness provided. Return attention gently to Traitor's Gate viewed from Thames-side water stairs. What kind of visitors arrived by river under cover of darkness? The question follows us as we prepare to descend deeper into the tower's hidden infrastructure. The White Tower looms above us, its massive Norman keep containing more than royal apartments and ceremonial chambers. Beneath its foundations lies a network of vaulted passages that connect the tower's various functions in ways that remain largely unknown to casual observers. These underground routes represent the tower's hidden circulatory system, allowing movement between critical areas without exposure to public view or potential security breaches. The entrance to these passages lies concealed behind what appears to be solid stone, accessible only through knowledge passed down through generations of tower service. The heavy door yields to specific keys carried only by those whose duties require access to the tower's most private infrastructure. Beyond this threshold, candlelight reveals Norman architecture at its most functional and impressive. Thick stone pillars support vaulted ceilings that have remained stable for nearly a millennium, their construction representing the pinnacle of medieval engineering applied to the specific needs of royal governance. The passages extend in multiple directions, creating a network that connects the White Tower to other critical structures while remaining completely invisible to those moving through the tower's public areas. How extensive were these hidden passages, and where did they lead? The question echoes through stone corridors that seem to absorb sound as effectively as they conceal movement. Each archway opens onto additional routes. Each turn reveals new connections between areas that appear separate when viewed from above ground. Return attention gently to vaulted stone passages under the Norman keep. How extensive were these hidden passages, and where did they lead? The candlelight reveals only glimpses of a network that may extend throughout the entire tower complex. The stone construction shows evidence of multiple building phases, suggesting that these passages evolved alongside the tower's changing administrative needs. Original Norman work blends seamlessly with later additions, creating a unified system that serves both defensive and governmental purposes. The walls bear no decorative elements, their function purely practical, designed to facilitate movement rather than impress visitors. Air circulation through these passages indicates sophisticated planning that ensures habitability even during extended use. Carefully positioned vents connect to the surface through routes that remain invisible from above, while the passage layout creates natural airflow patterns that prevent the stuffiness common in underground spaces. This attention to environmental detail suggests regular, extended use rather than emergency-only access. The floor surfaces show wear patterns that reveal primary routes versus occasional use connections. Certain pathways display the smooth polish that comes from centuries of regular footsteps, while others retain the rougher texture of less frequently traveled routes. These patterns suggest a hierarchy of access, with some passages serving daily administrative needs, while others remained reserved for extraordinary circumstances. Return attention gently to vaulted stone passages under the Norman keep. The network extends beyond simple connection, creating a hidden infrastructure that supported the tower's role as both fortress and seat of governance. Storage alcoves built into the passage walls contain evidence of their historical use. Iron brackets that once held torches, stone shelves designed for document storage, and secure niches that may have housed particularly sensitive materials. These features suggest that the passages served not just as routes, but as active workspace for activities requiring both privacy and security. The acoustic properties of these vaulted spaces create natural sound dampening, ensuring that conversations conducted in the passages remain inaudible to those in chambers above. This acoustic isolation, combined with the passage's concealed nature, made them ideal for discussions that required absolute discretion while maintaining official sanction. Return attention gently to vaulted stone passages under the Norman keep. How extensive were these hidden passages, and where did they lead? Each archway suggests new possibilities, new connections that may extend throughout the tower's entire administrative network. The passages connect to vertical shafts that provide access to upper levels through routes that bypass public corridors entirely. These connections allow movement between the tower's various administrative centers, while maintaining complete separation from areas accessible to routine visitors or lower-level staff. The system represents a three-dimensional approach to security that considers not just horizontal movement but vertical access as well. Emerging from the underground network, we find ourselves in a small chamber within Wakefield Tower, its placement and design suggesting specific administrative purposes. A wooden writing desk occupies the center of the room, its surface bearing the careful arrangements of medieval bureaucracy: quill pens, ink wells, sealing wax, and stacks of parchment that await official attention. The chamber's single window provides just enough natural light for daytime work, while maintaining the privacy necessary for sensitive documentation. The royal clerk who occupies this space during nocturnal hours represents a crucial link in the tower's administrative machinery. His duties extend beyond simple record-keeping into the preparation of documents for private hearings that unfold after midnight, when the tower's public functions give way to its role as seat of discreet governance. The sealed documents arranged on his desk bear markings that indicate their sensitive nature and urgent priority. What urgent matters of state required such secrecy and haste? The question hangs in candlelit air, as we observe the careful preparation of materials that will never appear in public records. Each document receives individual attention, with seals applied according to protocols that ensure both authenticity and confidentiality. Return attention gently to the small chamber in Wakefield Tower with writing desk and sealed documents. What urgent matters of state required such secrecy and haste? The clerk's methodical preparation suggests matters that brook no delay yet demand absolute discretion. The clerk's tools reveal the sophisticated nature of medieval administrative practice. Multiple types of sealing wax serve different levels of confidentiality, while various quill preparations allow for different styles of documentation. Certain documents receive treatment with materials that ensure longevity, while others appear designed for immediate use and subsequent destruction. This variety suggests a complex hierarchy of information, requiring different levels of security and permanence. The chamber's design facilitates both concentration and security. Thick stone walls ensure acoustic isolation, while the single entrance allows control of access. The window placement provides natural light while preventing observation from outside, and the chamber's position within Wakefield Tower places it at the center of the tower's administrative network while remaining separate from public areas. Document preparation follows specific protocols that have evolved over centuries of royal service. Each piece of parchment receives individual assessment, with content, format, and security measures tailored to the specific nature of the information being recorded. The clerk's movements display the precision that comes from years of training in procedures that balance efficiency with absolute accuracy. Return attention gently to the small chamber in Wakefield Tower with writing desk and sealed documents. The clerk's nocturnal duties represent a crucial component of governance that operates beyond public view, yet within official sanction. The sealed documents awaiting attention bear markings that indicate their origins and destinations. Some arrive via the discrete river routes we observed at Traitor's Gate, while others emerge from the underground passages that connect the tower's various administrative centers. Each requires specific handling protocols that ensure both security and proper processing according to established governmental procedures. The clerk's schedule aligns with the tower's nocturnal transformation, beginning work as public activities cease and continuing until dawn brings the return of daytime operations. This timing ensures that sensitive materials receive attention during hours when the tower's population consists only of essential personnel, reducing the possibility of inadvertent exposure or security breaches. Candle placement throughout the chamber creates optimal lighting for detailed work, while minimizing the visibility that might attract unwanted attention from outside observers. The clerk's movements between desk, document storage, and sealing station follow patterns designed for both efficiency and discretion, ensuring that work proceeds smoothly while maintaining the security necessary for sensitive governmental operations. Return attention gently to the small chamber in Wakefield Tower with writing desk and sealed documents. What urgent matters of state required such secrecy and haste? The question accompanies us as we prepare to explore the hidden routes that connect this administrative center to other secure areas. The Byward Tower presents a different aspect of the tower's hidden infrastructure, its thick walls concealing entrances that remain invisible to casual observation. Behind what appears to be decorative tapestry, careful examination reveals the outline of a substantial wooden door, its presence masked by centuries of careful camouflage that speaks to the tower's layered approach to security and access. The concealed entrance represents sophisticated medieval engineering applied to governmental necessity. The door itself bears no external hardware, its opening mechanism accessible only from the interior or through knowledge of specific activation procedures. Heavy iron hinges, protected from corrosion by careful maintenance, support oak planking that has withstood centuries of use while maintaining structural integrity. The tapestry that conceals this entrance displays the royal arms in rich colors that have faded only slightly despite their age. This decorative element serves multiple purposes, providing visual interest appropriate to royal residence, creating effective camouflage for the hidden door, and establishing the official nature of whatever activities require access to the concealed route beyond. Who knew about these secret routes and how were they used? The question takes on new dimensions as we consider the careful planning required to maintain such concealment across centuries of changing personnel and evolving security needs. Access to these routes required not just physical keys, but knowledge of their existence and proper protocols for their use. Return attention gently to the concealed entrance behind tapestry in the Byward Tower. Who knew about these secret routes and how were they used? The hidden door suggests a network of knowledge as carefully guarded as the physical passages themselves. The door's construction reveals multiple phases of modification and improvement, suggesting that these concealed routes evolved alongside the tower's changing administrative requirements. Original medieval ironwork blends with later additions, creating a unified system that serves contemporary needs while maintaining historical continuity. The lock mechanism shows evidence of regular maintenance, indicating active use rather than historical preservation. Behind the tapestry, careful examination reveals additional security features, secondary locks that require multiple keys, reinforcing elements that strengthen the door against forced entry, and communication systems that allow coordination between areas connected by the hidden routes. These features suggest that the concealed passages served critical governmental functions that required both accessibility and absolute security. The chamber beyond this hidden entrance connects to the passage network we observed beneath the White Tower, creating a comprehensive system that links the tower's various administrative centers while maintaining complete separation from public areas. This connection allows movement between critical functions without exposure to observation or potential security breaches. Return attention gently to the concealed entrance behind tapestry in the Byward Tower. The hidden routes represent more than architectural curiosity. They embody the tower's role as a center of governance that required both transparency and discretion, public ceremony and private consultation. The tapestry itself bears subtle marks that might indicate activation points for the hidden mechanism, though these markings remain so discreet that they escape casual notice. This level of camouflage suggests that even among tower personnel, knowledge of these routes remained restricted to those whose duties specifically required access. The system represents a hierarchy of information as carefully structured as the physical security it protects. Maintenance of these concealed routes required ongoing attention from craftsmen sworn to discretion, creating a tradition of service that passed specialized knowledge through generations of tower staff. The quality of preservation visible in the door's construction and the tapestry's condition indicates continuous care that ensures functionality while maintaining concealment. The hidden routes served multiple functions within the tower's administrative ecosystem, allowing discreet movement of personnel, providing secure transport for sensitive documents, creating escape routes during emergencies, and establishing communication networks that operated independently of public areas. This versatility made them essential to the tower's operation as both fortress and seat of governance. Return attention gently to the concealed entrance behind tapestry in the byward tower. Who knew about these secret routes and how were they used? The question follows us as we prepare to discover how these hidden networks supported the tower's most sensitive governmental functions, drawing us deeper into the palace secrets that unfold after midnight. The circular chamber within the bell tower holds a particular stillness that seems to absorb sound rather than echo it. Moonlight filters through iron bars set deep into stone walls, casting geometric shadows across worn wooden floorboards that have supported countless hours of waiting. A simple chair faces the narrow window, positioned as though someone might spend long periods watching the Thames flow past in the darkness below. Records from the tower's administrative archives describe this space as a holding chamber for individuals awaiting private audiences with royal officials or judicial proceedings. The room's furnishings reflect its purpose: functional rather than comfortable, secure rather than welcoming. A wooden table bears the marks of years of use, its surface scarred by the nervous movements of those who waited here through the night hours. The tower's role as a place of administrative detention required spaces like this one, where individuals could be held securely while maintaining the dignity appropriate to their station. Unlike common prison cells, these chambers provided basic amenities while ensuring complete isolation from the outside world. The thick walls prevented communication with other parts of the fortress, creating an environment of profound uncertainty for those confined within. What occupied the minds of people during these long midnight vigils? The historical record suggests that many used the time for reflection, prayer, or preparation for whatever proceedings awaited them. Some wrote letters that were never sent, while others paced the small confines of the room, measuring their anxiety in footsteps across the stone floor. The psychological impact of waiting in such isolation cannot be understated. The tower's administrators understood that uncertainty often proved more effective than harsh treatment in encouraging cooperation. The simple act of being confined in this circular space, with only moonlight and shadow for company, created a mental state conducive to confession or negotiation. The room's design reflects careful consideration of its purpose. The circular walls eliminate corners where prisoners might find psychological comfort, while the single window provides just enough light to prevent complete despair, while maintaining the sense of separation from the world beyond. The iron bars serve as a constant reminder of confinement, their shadows moving across the floor as the moon travels overhead. Evening mist from the Thames sometimes drifted through the barred window, carrying with it the sounds of the river traffic that continued even in the darkest hours. These distant noises served as reminders of the world continuing beyond the tower's walls, adding to the sense of isolation experienced by those waiting within the bell tower's embrace. The administrative records mention specific protocols for managing individuals held in these chambers. Guards checked on occupants at regular intervals, ensuring their physical needs were met while maintaining the psychological pressure of confinement. Food was delivered at set times, and basic hygiene facilities were provided, but conversation was strictly forbidden. Return attention gently to the circular room in the bell tower with simple furnishings and barred windows. The tower served as a place of waiting and uncertainty, where time moved differently than in the world outside. The chamber's atmosphere of suspended animation created conditions that often led to the very confessions or agreements that tower officials sought. The tower's famous ravens have occupied the grounds for centuries, their presence woven into both the practical operations and mystical reputation of the fortress. As darkness settles over the ancient stones, These large black birds find their roosts among the battlements and towers, their silhouettes becoming part of the night's architecture. Historical accounts suggest that ravens were initially attracted to the tower by the abundance of food scraps and refuse generated by the large population housed within the fortress walls. The birds' intelligence and adaptability allowed them to thrive in this environment, gradually becoming a permanent feature of tower life. Their presence served practical purposes that extended far beyond folklore. The ravens' keen eyesight and territorial nature made them effective early warning systems for unusual activity around the tower grounds. Their harsh calls would alert guards to the approach of strangers or the presence of anything out of the ordinary. This natural alarm system operated continuously, providing surveillance that complemented the human watch rotations. During the night hours, when most of the tower's population slept, the ravens maintained their vigilance. Their ability to see clearly in low light conditions made them particularly valuable sentinels during the hours when human guards might struggle to detect movement in the shadows. The birds' reactions often provided the first indication of potential threats or unauthorized access attempts. The practical relationship between the tower's staff and the ravens developed over generations. Certain individuals took responsibility for feeding and caring for the birds, ensuring their continued presence while managing their numbers to prevent overpopulation. This caretaking role became formalized over time, with specific duties assigned to maintain the raven population. How did these birds become part of the tower's mystique and daily routine? The transformation from practical necessity to symbolic importance occurred gradually, as generations of tower inhabitants observed the ravens' behavior and began to attribute special significance to their presence. The birds' longevity and apparent loyalty to the site created legends that enhanced the tower's reputation. The ravens' behavior during different seasons and weather conditions provided tower residents with natural indicators of changing circumstances. Their flight patterns, vocalizations, and roosting choices offered information about approaching storms, seasonal changes, and even potential threats that might not be immediately apparent to human observers. Evening feeding times created opportunities for interaction between the ravens and tower staff, establishing relationships that could span decades. Individual birds developed distinct personalities and preferences, becoming familiar figures in the daily life of the fortress. These relationships contributed to the sense of continuity that characterized the tower's operations across centuries. The birds' intelligence manifested in their ability to distinguish between regular tower personnel and strangers. This discrimination proved valuable for security purposes, as the ravens' reactions to unfamiliar individuals often provided advance warning of potential problems. Their territorial behavior reinforced the tower's defensive perimeter in ways that purely human security measures could not match. Return attention gently to the tower grounds, with ravens settling for the night among ancient stones. The interweaving of practical necessity and developing folklore created a unique relationship between these birds and the fortress they called home, adding another layer to the complex ecosystem that sustained the tower's operations through centuries of English history. The private chamber where the Privy Council conducted their most sensitive deliberations represents one of the tower's most secretive spaces. The room's arrangement reflected the gravity of the decisions made within its walls. A long oak table surrounded by high-backed chairs, with a brazier providing both warmth and the flickering light necessary for reading documents during the night hours. These midnight sessions occurred when matters of state required immediate attention but complete secrecy. The tower's isolation from London's main population centres made it an ideal location for discussions that could not risk public knowledge or interference. The chamber's thick walls and secure location within the fortress complex ensured that conversations remained private. The council table bore the scars of centuries of use, its surface marked by the countless documents that had been spread across its length during urgent deliberations. Sealing wax had dripped onto the wood over the years, creating a permanent record of the important papers that had been signed and sealed in this space. The chairs, worn smooth by generations of councillors, were positioned to facilitate both discussion and the careful examination of documents. Administrative records describe the protocols governing these secret sessions. Only individuals with explicit authorization could enter the chamber, and guards were positioned to ensure complete privacy. The brazier was lit well in advance of meetings to warm the space and provide adequate light for reading, while additional candles were placed strategically around the room to eliminate shadows that might obscure important details in documents. What decisions shaped England's future in these secret gatherings? The historical record suggests that many critical policies were developed during these nocturnal deliberations, when councillors could speak freely without concern for public reaction or political interference. The privacy of the tower environment allowed for frank discussions of sensitive matters that might prove impossible in more public settings. The chamber's atmosphere of secrecy and importance influenced the quality of deliberations conducted within its walls. The knowledge that they were meeting in one of England's most secure locations, surrounded by centuries of history and protected by the tower's formidable defences, lent weight to the councillors' discussions and decisions. Document storage within the chamber required special consideration for security and preservation. Iron-bound chests held the most sensitive papers, while current materials were kept in locked cabinets that could be quickly secured if meetings were interrupted. The room's design included hidden compartments for storing particularly confidential documents that required additional protection. The timing of these midnight sessions reflected both practical necessity and strategic advantage. Night meetings reduced the likelihood of observation by foreign agents or domestic opponents, while the late hours ensured that participants could speak without the distractions of normal government business. The psychological impact of meeting in darkness also contributed to the sense of urgency and importance that characterized these gatherings. Heating and lighting arrangements required careful management to maintain both comfort and security. The brazier provided warmth during cold nights, while its light supplemented the candles placed around the room. The flickering flames created an atmosphere of intimacy that encouraged frank discussion, while providing sufficient illumination for reading and writing. Return attention gently to the private chamber with council table, chairs, and burning brazier. The combination of physical security, psychological atmosphere, and practical arrangements created an environment where England's most important decisions could be made with the secrecy and deliberation they required, adding another dimension to the tower's role in governing the realm. St. Peter ad Vincaiuola, the tower's ancient chapel, takes on a particularly sacred atmosphere during the midnight hours when votive candles flicker before the stone altar and moonlight filters through stained glass windows. The chapel's role in tower life extended far beyond regular religious services, providing spiritual comfort to all who found themselves within the fortress walls during times of uncertainty and stress. The chapel's interior reflects centuries of continuous use, with worn stone floors bearing the marks of countless knees that have knelt in prayer before the altar. Wooden pews polished smooth by generations of worshippers faced toward the east where morning light would eventually illuminate the sacred space. During the night hours, the building's atmosphere shifts from the functional to the mystical, as shadows dance between the columns and candlelight creates pools of warm illumination. Religious observances continued throughout the night, with designated individuals maintaining vigils that ensured the sacred flame never died completely. These midnight prayers served multiple purposes, providing spiritual comfort to those in distress, maintaining the religious traditions that legitimized royal authority, and creating opportunities for private reflection away from the pressures of tower life. The chapel's acoustic properties enhanced the experience of nighttime worship. Stone walls and vaulted ceilings created a resonance that made whispered prayers seem to linger in the air, while the soft sounds of movement and breathing were absorbed into the sacred space. This acoustic environment encouraged contemplation and created a sense of connection with the divine that many found comforting during difficult periods. What prayers were whispered in this sacred space during the darkest hours? Historical accounts suggest that individuals facing uncertain futures often spent long hours in the chapel, seeking spiritual guidance and comfort through prayer and meditation. The building's neutral ground status within the tower community made it a place where social and political divisions could be temporarily set aside in favor of shared spiritual experience. The chapel's furnishings reflected its dual role as both public worship space and private sanctuary. The altar, carved from local stone and consecrated according to ancient rites, served as the focal point for formal religious ceremonies. Smaller side chapels provided spaces for individual prayer and contemplation, while the main nave accommodated larger gatherings when tower residents gathered for communal worship. Candle maintenance represented a significant aspect of chapel operations during the night hours. Designated individuals ensured that votive candles remained lit throughout the darkness, replacing burned-down candles and maintaining the oil lamps that provided steady illumination. This continuous care created an environment where spiritual activities could continue regardless of the time of day or night. The stained glass windows, though barely visible in moonlight, created subtle patterns of colored shadow that added to the chapel's mystical atmosphere during nighttime hours. These artistic elements, created by skilled craftsmen over the centuries, depicted religious scenes and royal heraldry that reinforced both spiritual and temporal authority within the sacred space. Confession and spiritual counseling often took place in the chapel during the quiet hours when privacy could be maintained and distractions minimized. The building's sacred nature provided a setting where individuals could speak freely about their concerns and fears, knowing that religious confidentiality would protect their revelations from secular authorities. The chapel's cemetery, located immediately outside the building, served as a constant reminder of mortality and the temporary nature of earthly concerns. This proximity to the final resting place of many tower residents added solemnity to midnight prayers and encouraged reflection on spiritual rather than temporal matters. Return attention gently to the interior of the tower's chapel during midnight prayers. The building's role as a sanctuary within the fortress created opportunities for spiritual renewal that sustained tower residents through the challenges and uncertainties of their unique circumstances, providing comfort that transcended the political and administrative functions that dominated daily life. The tower's armory represents one of the most impressive collections of weapons and armor ever assembled, housed within long galleries where torchlight creates dramatic shadows among the displays. These halls served practical purposes as storage and maintenance facilities, while also functioning as symbols of royal power and military capability that could intimidate visitors and remind residents of the crown's authority. The organization of weapons and armor within these galleries reflected both practical necessity and ceremonial importance. Suits of plate armor stood in torchlit niches, their polished surfaces reflecting the flickering flames and creating an almost supernatural atmosphere during the night hours. The arrangement allowed for easy access during emergencies while presenting an impressive display of military might to anyone granted permission to view the collection. Maintenance of the armory required constant attention from skilled craftsmen who worked throughout the night to ensure that weapons remained in perfect condition. The sound of hammering and filing echoed through the galleries as armorers repaired damage, sharpened blades, and adjusted fittings to maintain the collection's readiness for use. These nocturnal activities created an atmosphere of industrious preparation that reinforced the tower's military purpose. The symbolic power of these weapons extended far beyond their practical applications. The presence of armor worn by legendary knights and weapons used in famous battles created a tangible connection to English military history that enhanced the tower's reputation as a center of royal authority. Visitors walking through the torchlit galleries could not fail to be impressed by the accumulated martial heritage displayed before them. What stories did these ancient weapons hold from centuries of service? Each piece in the collection carried its own history of battles fought, victories won, and defeats endured. The scratches on armor plates, the wear patterns on sword hilts, and the repairs visible in chain mail told stories of the men who had worn and wielded these implements of war throughout England's turbulent history. The gallery's lighting system required careful management to prevent fires, while providing adequate illumination for both security and maintenance purposes. Torches were placed in iron brackets set into the stone walls, positioned to minimize shadows while avoiding proximity to flammable materials. The resulting atmosphere of flickering light and dancing shadows enhanced the dramatic impact of the weapon displays. Security measures within the armory reflected the valuable nature of the collection and its potential danger if weapons fell into unauthorized hands. Guard rotations ensured continuous surveillance, while locked gates prevented access to sensitive areas during the night hours. The combination of physical barriers and human surveillance created multiple layers of protection for the Crown's military assets. The practical organization of weapons allowed for rapid deployment in case of emergency. Swords were arranged by type and size for easy selection, while armor was organized according to the size and rank of potential wearers. This systematic approach ensured that the tower's garrison could be equipped quickly and efficiently if circumstances required immediate military action. Ceremonial weapons occupied places of honor within the galleries, their elaborate decoration and precious metal inlays reflecting their role in state functions rather than battlefield use. These pieces served as symbols of royal authority during important ceremonies, while demonstrating the Crown's wealth and artistic patronage to visitors from foreign courts. The sound environment within the armory galleries created a unique acoustic signature that enhanced their psychological impact. The echo of footsteps on stone floors, the whisper of torch flames, and the occasional clink of metal against metal combined to create an atmosphere of barely contained military power that reminded all who entered of the tower's capacity for violence in defense of royal authority. Return attention gently to the long gallery lined with armor and weapons, lit by occasional torches. The tower served as keeper of royal authority through the impressive display and careful maintenance of military might, creating an environment where the Crown's power remained visible and accessible even during the quiet hours of the night. The Jewel House represents the most secure area within the tower complex, where England's treasures were stored and meticulously catalogued through careful record-keeping that continued throughout the night hours. Iron-bound chests lined the walls of this chamber, each containing precious items whose value required constant monitoring and protection by the Crown's most trusted officials. The accounting systems used to track the royal treasures represent some of the most sophisticated record-keeping of the medieval period. Leather-bound ledger books recorded every item in minute detail, with descriptions that included weight, dimensions, materials, and estimated value. These records were updated regularly and cross-referenced to prevent theft or unauthorized removal of items from the collection. Clerks assigned to night duty in the jewel house performed essential functions that ensured the security and proper management of the Crown's wealth. Their responsibilities included conducting inventory checks, updating ledger entries, and maintaining the environmental conditions necessary to preserve precious metals and gemstones. The precision required for this work demanded individuals with exceptional attention to detail and absolute trustworthiness. The physical security measures protecting the jewel house exceeded those found anywhere else in the tower complex. Multiple locks secured each chest, with different individuals holding keys to prevent unauthorized access by any single person. The chamber itself was protected by thick stone walls and iron-reinforced doors that would resist even determined attempts at forced entry. How did clerks ensure the Crown's wealth remained secure and accounted for? The system relied on multiple checks and balances that made theft or embezzlement virtually impossible. Each transaction required documentation by at least 2 individuals, while regular audits compared physical inventory against written records to identify any discrepancies that might indicate problems. The environmental conditions within the jewel house required careful management to prevent deterioration of precious materials. Humidity levels were controlled through ventilation systems that provided fresh air without compromising security, while temperature regulation prevented the expansion and contraction that could damage delicate settings or cause gemstones to crack. Candlelight provided the primary illumination for nighttime work in the jewel house, with specially designed lanterns that minimized fire risk while providing adequate light for detailed record keeping. The positioning of light sources required careful consideration to prevent shadows that might obscure important details while avoiding direct exposure that could fade or damage certain materials. The brass scales used for weighing precious metals and gemstones represented precision instruments that required regular calibration and maintenance. These devices allowed clerks to verify the weight of items against their recorded specifications, providing an additional check against theft or substitution. The accuracy of these measurements was critical to maintaining the integrity of the inventory system. The social hierarchy within the jewel house reflected the extreme sensitivity of the work performed there. Only individuals with proven loyalty and exceptional skills were permitted access to the chamber, and their activities were subject to constant supervision and regular review. The psychological pressure of working with such valuable materials created an atmosphere of intense concentration and responsibility. Documentation procedures required that every action taken within the jewel house be recorded in multiple locations to prevent the loss or alteration of critical information. Duplicate records were maintained in separate locations, while summary reports were prepared regularly for review by senior officials who monitored the overall management of the Crown's treasures. The relationship between the jewel house and other tower operations required careful coordination to maintain security while allowing for the legitimate use of royal treasures during ceremonies and state functions. Special procedures govern the temporary removal of items for official purposes, with detailed documentation tracking each piece from storage through use and back to secure custody. Return attention gently to the secure chamber with iron-bound chests and accounting books. The meticulous systems developed to protect and manage England's treasures created an environment where the Crown's wealth could be preserved and utilized effectively, demonstrating the administrative sophistication that made the Tower of London one of medieval Europe's most important governmental institutions. The worn stones of the spiral staircase curve upward through darkness, each step polished smooth by centuries of careful footfalls. Tonight, as Thames fog drifts through the tower's courtyards, we follow these hidden vertical passages that connected the White Tower's most important chambers, their narrow width requiring visitors to ascend single file, while rope handrails provided guidance in the flickering torchlight. The architectural logic of these spiral stairs reveals the tower's sophisticated design for discrete movement between floors. Unlike the grand ceremonial staircases that announced arrivals, these service passages allowed officials to move between the royal apartments, treasury chambers, and administrative offices without crossing public spaces or alerting casual observers to their business. Master masons had carved these steps directly into the White Tower's thick walls, creating passages that were both structurally sound and strategically concealed. The spiral design maximized the use of limited space while providing natural defensive advantages, as anyone attempting unauthorized access would be forced into a predictable climbing pattern that guards could easily monitor from above or below. Each turn of the stair revealed small alcoves where torches could be placed, their brackets wrought from iron and set at precise intervals to provide adequate illumination without creating excessive smoke in the confined space. The rope handrails, replaced periodically as they wore from use, were secured to iron rings embedded in the stone walls, offering necessary support during ascent or descent in low light conditions. The upper reaches of these stairs connected to chambers where the most sensitive royal business was conducted. Private audiences with foreign ambassadors, confidential meetings with treasury officials, and discreet consultations with legal advisors all required access routes that avoided the more public areas of the tower complex, making these hidden stairs essential to the Crown's administrative operations. Return attention gently to the narrow stone spiral staircase. The careful positioning of these passages within the White Tower's walls demonstrates the medieval understanding that effective governance required both transparency in public ceremonies and privacy for sensitive deliberations, creating an architectural framework that supported the complex needs of royal administration. The sound of the Thames reaches even the tower's highest chambers, carried on night winds that bring the scent of river water and the distant calls of watermen navigating by lantern light. From the tower wharf, where fog rolls in from the dark water, the fortress takes on an otherworldly quality as mist softens the sharp edges of stone walls and transforms familiar courtyards into mysterious landscapes. The river's presence shaped every aspect of the tower's nocturnal atmosphere, from the damp chill that settled into stone passages to the rhythmic sound of water lapping against the wharf's wooden pilings. Guards walking their rounds could hear the Thames even when they could not see it, the river's constant murmur providing an acoustic backdrop to the night's activities, while fog muffled the sounds of footsteps on cobblestones. Lantern light from the wharf created pools of warm illumination that barely penetrated the rolling mist, while the tower's own torches appeared as distant glows filtered through the humid air. This natural concealment offered both protection and isolation, wrapping the fortress in a cocoon of privacy that made nighttime the ideal period for conducting business that required absolute discretion. The fog brought with it the sounds of London's river life continuing through the dark hours. Merchant vessels anchored downstream creaked at their moorings, while smaller boats moved carefully between the larger ships, their occupants calling softly to avoid collisions in the limited visibility. These river sounds created a complex acoustic environment that tower guards learned to interpret, distinguishing between normal Thames traffic and potentially suspicious activity. Return attention gently to the tower wharf with fog rolling in from the Thames. The interplay between the fortress and its river setting created unique conditions for the tower's nocturnal operations, where the natural environment provided both concealment and sensory challenges that influenced how official business was conducted after sunset. Within the tower's walls, a small walled garden provided essential medicinal and culinary plants that served the fortress community's daily needs. Even during the darkest hours, certain urgent requirements might necessitate harvesting herbs under torchlight, as the tower's physicians and cooks maintained their responsibilities regardless of the time. The garden's careful organization reflected centuries of accumulated knowledge about which plants grew best in London's climate and soil conditions. Neat rows of herbs were arranged according to their uses, with medicinal plants separated from culinary ones to prevent accidental misuse, while stone pathways allowed access even during wet weather when the earth became muddy and treacherous. A wooden tool shed provided storage for the implements needed to maintain this vital resource, from pruning knives to watering vessels, while wooden markers identified each variety of plant for those who might need to locate specific herbs during emergencies. The garden's walls offered protection from both weather and unauthorized access, ensuring that the tower's supply of essential plants remained secure and properly maintained. The medicinal herbs grown here included those needed to treat common ailments that affected the tower's residents and workers. Feverfew for headaches, chamomile for digestive troubles, and various wound herbs that could be prepared quickly when accidents occurred during the fortress's daily operations. The availability of these remedies within the tower's walls reduced dependence on outside suppliers and ensured that medical treatment could be provided promptly when needed. Culinary herbs served equally important functions in maintaining the health and morale of the tower's community. Fresh herbs improved the taste of preserved foods that formed the basis of the fortress diet, while certain plants provided essential nutrients that helped prevent the dietary deficiencies common in medieval institutional settings. Return attention gently to the small walled garden with medicinal and culinary plants. The tower functioned as a living, working community where practical needs continued around the clock, requiring careful planning and resource management to ensure that essential supplies remained available whenever circumstances demanded their use. The constable's private chambers represented the domestic heart of the tower's highest-ranking residents, where comfort and responsibility intersected in rooms designed to provide both personal sanctuary and workspace for the fortress's chief administrator. Tapestries hung from stone walls to provide warmth and color, while a substantial fireplace offered heat during London's cold months and light for evening activities. The private study within these chambers contained the constable's personal library and the documents related to his administrative duties, creating a space where official business could be conducted in privacy while maintaining the informal atmosphere necessary for certain types of negotiations and consultations. Carved wooden furniture provided both functionality and status, demonstrating the constable's position while offering the comfort needed for long hours spent reviewing reports and correspondence. The fireplace served multiple purposes beyond heating, providing light for reading and writing during evening hours while creating a welcoming atmosphere for private meetings with visitors who required the constable's personal attention. The warmth and illumination it provided made these chambers suitable for conducting business that might extend well into the night, when other parts of the tower grew cold and unwelcoming. Personal touches in the furnishing revealed the human side of the tower's administration, where the weight of responsibility for England's most important fortress was balanced by the need for domestic comfort and privacy. The constable's chambers demonstrated that even in a military installation, provision was made for the personal needs of those charged with its governance. Return attention gently to the comfortable apartment with tapestries, fireplace, and private study. The balance between official duty and personal comfort reflected the complex nature of the constable's role, where effective administration required both formal authority and the ability to create environments conducive to confidential discussion and careful decision-making. A small side entrance known as the postern gate provided discreet access to the tower complex for visitors whose business required avoiding the public attention that accompanied use of the main gates. The heavy wooden door, reinforced with iron studs and secured by substantial hardware, could be opened quietly to admit individuals whose presence needed to remain unnoticed by casual observers. The gate's design prioritized security while enabling swift, silent operation when circumstances required it. Iron hinges were regularly maintained to prevent squeaking, while the door's weight was carefully balanced to allow controlled movement despite its substantial construction. The positioning of this entrance took advantage of natural concealment provided by architectural features and landscaping that helped obscure the comings and goings of those who used it. Access to the postern gate was strictly controlled through a system of keys held only by senior officials who could authorize its use for specific purposes. The gate's location within the tower's defensive perimeter meant that even discreet visitors still passed through secure areas where their presence could be monitored and recorded if necessary, maintaining security while providing the privacy required for sensitive meetings. The iron hardware securing this entrance represented the finest craftsmanship available, designed to provide reliable operation while resisting tampering or forced entry. Multiple locking mechanisms ensured that the gate remained secure when not in authorized use, while the quality of its construction allowed for smooth operation when legitimate access was required. Return attention gently to the small side entrance with heavy wooden door and iron hardware. The existence of such discrete access points demonstrates the tower's sophisticated approach to managing the flow of visitors and information, creating infrastructure that supported both transparency and confidentiality as circumstances required. In a small chamber furnished with writing materials and a witness chair, the careful documentation of private hearings and sworn statements created permanent records of proceedings that required both accuracy and confidentiality. The scribe's workspace was arranged to facilitate the precise recording of testimony, while ensuring that witnesses could speak comfortably and clearly during their examinations. The writing desk's height and angle were designed for extended periods of careful penmanship, with multiple ink wells providing backup supplies to prevent interruptions during lengthy proceedings. Parchment rolls stored nearby offered the high-quality writing surfaces necessary for creating documents that would serve as official records, while sand for drying ink and sealing wax for authentication were kept readily accessible. The witness chair was positioned to allow clear communication between the person giving testimony and the scribe recording their words, while also ensuring that any officials conducting the examination could observe both parties and intervene if clarification was needed. The chamber's acoustic properties were considered in its design, minimizing echoes and outside noise that might interfere with accurate recording of spoken statements. Candles provided the steady, controlled illumination necessary for precise writing work, their positioning carefully planned to avoid shadows that might obscure the scribe's view of the parchment, while ensuring adequate light for reading back recorded testimony when verification was required. The chamber's atmosphere was kept deliberately calm and professional to encourage honest, complete responses from those providing statements. The documentation created in this chamber became part of the tower's extensive archives, where records of private proceedings were stored according to strict organizational systems that allowed for future reference while maintaining appropriate confidentiality. These transcripts served as official evidence in legal proceedings and administrative decisions, making the accuracy and completeness of the scribe's work essential to the proper functioning of royal justice. Return attention gently to the small chamber with writing materials and witness chair. The careful procedures developed for recording confidential testimony demonstrate the medieval commitment to creating reliable documentary evidence while respecting the sensitive nature of proceedings that required privacy and discretion in their conduct and preservation. Captain William Hartwell adjusted his lantern as he began the midnight watch, the flame casting steady shadows across the battlements connecting the White Tower to the outer defences. His boots found familiar purchase on stones worn smooth by centuries of guards who had walked this same circuit, each following procedures refined through generations of service. The tower's security depended on these methodical rounds, where experienced eyes could detect the subtle signs that indicated all remained as it should be. The wall walk stretched before him, a narrow stone pathway that connected the fortress's major towers through a network of defensive positions. Each segment required specific attention, checking that doors remained properly secured, ensuring that lanterns burned at designated posts, and confirming that the various entry points showed no signs of unauthorized activity. The rhythm of these inspections had been established through decades of refinement, balancing thorough security with the practical needs of a functioning royal residence. Return attention gently to the battlements and wall walks connecting the various towers. The tower's eternal vigilance required guards who understood not just what to look for, but how to interpret the small details that might indicate larger concerns. A door left slightly ajar, a window shutter that should have been closed, the absence of expected sounds from areas that typically showed signs of activity. These were the subtle indicators that separated experienced guards from those still learning their duties. Captain Hartwell paused at each tower junction, listening for the sounds that confirmed normal operations. The distant murmur of voices from the guard stations, the soft scrape of a key turning in a lock as another officer completed his assigned check, the measured footsteps of colleagues conducting their own circuits. The absence of expected sounds could be as significant as the presence of unexpected ones, requiring immediate but discreet investigation to determine whether any irregularities posed genuine concerns. The lantern light revealed the careful maintenance that kept these defensive positions functional. Iron hinges were regularly oiled to prevent the squeaks that might compromise stealth during security operations. Stone surfaces were kept clear of debris that could cause a guard to stumble during urgent movement. The positioning of additional lanterns at strategic points ensured that no section of the wall walk remained completely dark, while avoiding the excessive illumination that might make guards visible to potential threats outside the fortress. Return attention gently to the battlements and wall walks connecting the various towers. What signs did experienced guards watch for during these dark hours? The answer lay in understanding the tower's normal patterns of activity. Each area had its expected rhythm, the kitchen staff completing their final preparations for morning meals, the stable hands checking on horses before retiring, the clerks securing documents in the administrative chambers. Deviations from these established routines required careful assessment to determine their significance. Weather conditions affected the conduct of security rounds, with fog from the Thames creating visibility challenges that required adjusted procedures. During particularly thick fog, guards relied more heavily on sound and moved more slowly to ensure they didn't miss important details. Rain created different challenges, as the sound of water on stone could mask other noises that guards needed to hear. These environmental factors were incorporated into training, ensuring that security remained effective regardless of conditions. The tower's defensive architecture supported these security procedures through design features that channeled movement through predictable paths. Narrow staircases and doorways created natural checkpoints where guards could efficiently monitor access. The positioning of windows and arrow slits provided observation points that allowed discreet surveillance of both internal courtyards and external approaches. These architectural elements work together with human vigilance to create multiple layers of security. Return attention gently to the battlements and wall walks connecting the various towers. The tower's eternal vigilance extended beyond immediate security concerns to include the preservation of institutional knowledge. Senior guards trained their successors not just in procedures, but in the reasoning behind those procedures. Understanding why certain precautions were necessary helped guards adapt their methods to unusual circumstances while maintaining the overall effectiveness of the security system. The captain's rounds included periodic checks of the various storage areas where sensitive materials were kept. Keys to important chambers were accounted for according to established schedules. Seals on document containers were examined to ensure they remained intact. These inspections served both security and administrative purposes, providing documentation that proper custody procedures had been followed and that no unauthorized access had occurred. Communication between guards followed specific protocols designed to maintain security while ensuring effective coordination. Predetermined signals allowed guards to communicate status information without creating noise that might compromise their positions. The timing of these communications was carefully planned to avoid creating predictable patterns that could be exploited by those with unauthorized intentions. This system balanced the need for coordination with the requirement for operational security. Return attention gently to the battlements and wall walks connecting the various towers. What signs did experienced guards watch for during these dark hours? The most important skill was recognizing the difference between normal variations in routine and genuine irregularities that required investigation. A light burning later than usual might indicate important work in progress, or it might suggest something requiring attention. The guard's judgment, informed by experience and training, determined the appropriate response to such observations. The documentation of security rounds served multiple purposes beyond immediate operational needs. Records of unusual observations provided valuable intelligence for future security planning. Patterns of activity could be analyzed to identify potential vulnerabilities or to confirm the effectiveness of existing procedures. This systematic approach to security information helped ensure that the tower's defenses continued to evolve and improve over time. Captain Hartwell completed his circuit as the first hints of dawn began to appear on the horizon, the familiar weight of responsibility settling into the quiet satisfaction of duties properly fulfilled. The tower's security depended on this combination of systematic procedures, experienced judgment, and unwavering attention to detail that had protected its secrets through countless nights of vigilant watch. The archive chamber stood in careful silence, its wooden shelves rising from floor to ceiling in measured rows that spoke of centuries of systematic documentation. Leather-bound volumes rested alongside carefully rolled parchments, each positioned according to organizational principles that balanced accessibility with preservation. The accumulated records represented the tower's institutional memory, a vast collection of documents that preserved the details of governance, custody, and ceremony that defined the fortress's role in royal administration. Brother Marcus, the tower's chief archivist, moved through these collections with the practiced care of someone who understood both the value and fragility of historical documentation. His responsibilities extended far beyond simple storage. The proper cataloging, preservation, and retrieval of documents required extensive knowledge of legal procedures, administrative practices, and the complex relationships between different types of records. The archive served as both repository and active resource for ongoing administrative needs. Return attention gently to the document storage room with shelves of scrolls and bound volumes. The arrangement of materials reflected sophisticated understanding of how information might need to be accessed. Legal documents were grouped by type and chronological period, allowing for efficient research into precedents and procedures. Administrative records were organized by function, enabling quick reference during ongoing business. Personal documents related to custody and care were maintained separately, ensuring appropriate confidentiality while preserving essential information. The physical preservation of documents required constant attention to environmental conditions within the archive chamber. Humidity levels were carefully managed through architectural features that promoted air circulation while preventing excessive dampness. Temperature fluctuations were minimized through the chamber's position within the tower's structure, taking advantage of the thermal mass of surrounding stone walls. These passive preservation methods were supplemented by active maintenance procedures that included regular inspection and careful handling protocols. Parchment and vellum documents required different preservation approaches than paper materials, each presenting unique challenges related to their composition and age. The organic materials used in medieval document production were susceptible to various forms of degradation, from insect damage to chemical breakdown caused by the inks and dyes used in their creation. Understanding these vulnerabilities allowed archivists to implement appropriate protective measures and storage methods. Return attention gently to the document storage room with shelves of scrolls and bound volumes. What secrets lay dormant in these carefully preserved documents? The question reflected the nature of archival work itself. Documents that seemed routine when created might later reveal their significance through changed circumstances or new perspectives. Administrative records that appeared purely functional might contain details that illuminated larger patterns of governance or social practice. The cataloging system employed in the tower's archives represented centuries of refinement in information organization. Documents were classified according to multiple criteria: chronological, functional, and by the parties involved. Cross-references allowed researchers to trace connections between related materials, while standardized notation systems ensured that future archivists could understand and maintain the organizational structure. This systematic approach made the vast collection manageable and useful for practical purposes. Access to archival materials was carefully controlled through procedures that balanced legitimate research needs with security concerns. Different categories of documents required different levels of authorization for consultation. Some materials could be freely accessed by administrative staff conducting routine business, while others required specific permission from senior officials. The most sensitive documents were subject to additional restrictions that limited both access and the conditions under which they could be examined. The creation of copies and extracts from archival documents followed established protocols designed to preserve the integrity of original materials while meeting practical needs for information. Scribes trained in archival procedures created these copies using methods that ensured accuracy while minimizing handling of original documents. The copies themselves became part of the archival system, properly catalogued and preserved for future reference. Return attention gently to the document storage room with shelves of scrolls and bound volumes. What secrets lay dormant in these carefully preserved documents? The answer often emerged through the careful comparison of multiple documents that individually might seem unremarkable. Administrative records from different periods could reveal changes in procedures or policies. Correspondence between officials might illuminate the reasoning behind decisions that were recorded elsewhere, only in their final form. The archive also served as a training ground for clerks and administrators who needed to understand the historical context of their work. By studying how similar situations had been handled in the past, officials could make more informed decisions about current challenges. This institutional memory function was particularly valuable in legal matters, where precedent played a crucial role in determining appropriate procedures and outcomes. Preservation work in the archives was ongoing, requiring specialized skills in document repair and conservation. Torn parchments could be carefully mended using traditional techniques that maintain the document's integrity while ensuring its continued usability. Faded inks could sometimes be enhanced through careful treatment, though such interventions were undertaken only when absolutely necessary and with full documentation of the procedures used. Return attention gently to the document storage room with shelves of scrolls and bound volumes. The accumulated wisdom contained in these carefully preserved records represented more than simple historical curiosity. The documents served as the foundation for ongoing governance, providing the legal and procedural framework that guided contemporary decision-making. Understanding this continuity between past and present was essential for appreciating the archive's true significance. The quiet efficiency of archival work reflected the broader administrative culture of the tower, where careful attention to detail and systematic procedures ensured that complex operations could be maintained across generations of personnel. The documents themselves were testimony to this commitment to institutional continuity, preserved not as mere curiosities, but as active components of ongoing governance and administration. Brother Marcus completed his evening inspection as the archives settled into their nighttime quiet, the accumulated knowledge of centuries resting safely in its carefully organized sanctuary, ready to serve future needs while preserving the institutional memory that gave the tower its enduring authority and purpose. The bell tower's interior rose in shadowed curves of dressed stone, its architectural lines drawing the eye upward toward the great bronze bell that dominated the chamber's upper reaches. The bell itself represented centuries of craftsmanship, its surface bearing the subtle variations in color and texture that spoke of age and careful maintenance. The rope mechanism that connected the bell to the tower below demonstrated the practical engineering that made such massive instruments manageable for human operation. Brother Thomas, the tower's bell-keeper, began his pre-dawn preparations with movements refined through years of practice. The transition from night to day required careful timing, as the bell's first chime would signal the beginning of official business throughout the fortress. This moment marked the boundary between the tower's private nighttime operations and its public daytime functions, a transformation that occurred with ceremonial precision each morning. Return attention gently to the bell tower interior with great bronze bell and rope mechanism. The positioning of the bell within the tower had been calculated to ensure optimal sound distribution across the fortress complex. The stone chamber's acoustics were designed to amplify and direct the bell's voice, ensuring that its signals could be clearly heard in all areas where personnel needed to respond to time announcements. The engineering principles involved represented sophisticated understanding of sound propagation and architectural acoustics. The rope mechanism itself required regular maintenance to ensure reliable operation. Hemp fibers were inspected for signs of wear, with sections replaced according to a predetermined schedule that prevented unexpected failures. The pulleys and mounting hardware were kept properly lubricated and adjusted to minimize the physical effort required for operation, while maintaining precise control over the bell's movement. These maintenance procedures were essential for ensuring that time signals remained accurate and dependable. The bronze composition of the bell had been carefully formulated to produce the desired tonal qualities while ensuring durability under repeated use. The metal's properties affected both the sound produced and the bell's resistance to weather and mechanical stress. Periodic inspections checked for signs of metal fatigue or damage that might affect either the bell's sound or its structural integrity. Such examinations required specialized knowledge of metallurgy and acoustic principles. Return attention gently to the bell tower interior with great bronze bell and rope mechanism. How did the tower transform as darkness gave way to dawn? The answer lay partly in the bell's role as coordinator of this transformation. Its first chime initiated a cascade of activity throughout the fortress, guards changing shifts, administrative staff beginning their duties, kitchen personnel starting meal preparations. The bell served as the central timekeeper that synchronized these various activities into a coherent operational rhythm. The timing of the dawn bell was determined through careful observation of natural light conditions, adjusted seasonally to account for changing sunrise times. This required the bell keeper to maintain awareness of astronomical patterns and weather conditions that might affect visibility. The goal was to signal the beginning of daytime operations at the optimal moment when sufficient light was available for safe and efficient work throughout the fortress complex. Sound signals beyond the basic time announcements could be produced through variations in the bell's ringing pattern. Different sequences of chimes conveyed different types of information: emergency alerts, ceremonial occasions, or administrative announcements. These signal codes were standardized and regularly practiced to ensure that all personnel understood their meanings and could respond appropriately to different types of communications. The bell tower's position within the tower complex had been chosen to maximize both acoustic effectiveness and symbolic significance. Its elevation provided clear sightlines for visual coordination with other timing systems, while its central location ensured that sound signals reached all areas of the fortress with appropriate volume and clarity. The tower's architectural prominence also reinforced the bell's role as a symbol of institutional authority and temporal order. Return attention gently to the bell tower interior with great bronze bell and rope mechanism. How did the tower transform as darkness gave way to dawn? The physical transformation was accompanied by changes in the tower's social and administrative atmosphere. The quiet, private activities of night gave way to the more formal, public business of day. This transition required careful coordination to ensure that sensitive nighttime operations were properly concluded before daytime activities began. The bell keeper's responsibilities extended beyond simple timekeeping to include understanding the tower's operational requirements at different times and seasons. Special events, ceremonial occasions, and administrative deadlines all affected the timing and pattern of bell signals. This required ongoing communication with other tower officials to ensure that time announcements supported rather than disrupted important activities. Weather conditions could affect both the bell's operation and the propagation of its sound signals. High winds might alter the bell's swing characteristics, while fog or rain could dampen sound transmission. The bell keeper needed to account for these factors when determining appropriate signal timing and intensity. Experience and careful observation were essential for maintaining effective communication, regardless of environmental conditions. The bronze bell's voice carried across the Thames and into the surrounding areas beyond the tower, serving as a time signal for the broader community. This external function connected the tower's internal operations with the rhythms of daily life in the surrounding city. The bell thus served as both internal coordinator and external symbol of the tower's role in the larger administrative and social structure. Return attention gently to the bell tower interior with great bronze bell and rope mechanism. The morning's first chime represented more than simple time announcement. It embodied the continuity of institutional function across the boundary between night and day. The bell's bronze voice connected each new day with all the previous days in an unbroken chain of temporal order that gave structure and meaning to the tower's ongoing operations. Brother Thomas completed his preparations as the optimal moment for the dawn signal approached, the great bell waiting in readiness to announce another day in the tower's long history of service to crown and realm. Its bronze voice prepared to carry forward the ancient rhythm of institutional continuity that had marked the passage of time within these walls for countless generations. The main gate area filled with the measured sounds of assembling personnel as the ancient ceremony of keys began its nightly ritual. Yeoman warders took their appointed positions with movements that reflected decades of practice, each man understanding his role in a procedure that had remained essentially unchanged for centuries. The ceremonial lanterns cast steady pools of light across the stone courtyard, illuminating faces that bore the serious concentration appropriate to this solemn duty. Chief Yeoman Warder Edmund Blackwood carried the heavy ring of keys that would secure the tower for another night, their weight representing far more than simple metal and mechanism. Each key corresponded to a specific gate, door, or chamber within the fortress complex, and the systematic locking of these entry points followed a prescribed sequence that ensured no area was left vulnerable. The ceremony transformed this practical necessity into a formal ritual that honored the tower's role as guardian of royal authority. Return attention gently to the main gate area with assembled guards and ceremonial lanterns. The positioning of participants in the ceremony reflected both practical security needs and symbolic significance. Guards were arranged to maintain visual surveillance of all approaches while participating in the formal procedures. The lantern bearers were positioned to provide adequate illumination for the key operations while avoiding patterns that might compromise security. This balance between ceremony and function exemplified the tower's dual nature as working fortress and symbolic institution. The verbal exchanges that accompanied the ceremony followed traditional formulations that had been passed down through generations of tower personnel. These ritual phrases served multiple purposes. They provided confirmation that proper procedures were being followed. They created a sense of continuity with past generations who had performed the same duties, and they reinforced the solemn responsibility associated with securing the fortress. The words themselves had been refined over time to achieve maximum clarity and appropriate dignity. Each lock in the sequence required specific techniques for proper operation, knowledge that was carefully transmitted from experienced warders to their successors. The keys themselves were crafted to exacting standards, with tolerances that ensured reliable operation while preventing unauthorized duplication. The locks were regularly maintained and tested to confirm their mechanical integrity and security effectiveness. This attention to detail reflected the critical importance of the ceremony's practical outcomes. Return attention gently to the main gate area with assembled guards and ceremonial lanterns. How did this ceremony connect past and present in an unbroken chain? The answer lay in the deliberate preservation of traditional procedures alongside their adaptation to changing security needs. While the essential elements of the ceremony remained constant, subtle modifications had been incorporated over time to address evolving threats and operational requirements. This balance between tradition and practical necessity demonstrated institutional wisdom accumulated across centuries. The timing of the ceremony was coordinated with other evening procedures throughout the tower, ensuring that the locking sequence occurred after all legitimate daily business had been completed. This required communication with various departments to confirm that no authorized personnel remained in areas that would be secured. The systematic nature of these confirmations reflected the tower's commitment to both security and the practical needs of its diverse operations. Weather conditions affected the conduct of the ceremony, with procedures adapted to maintain both safety and dignity during adverse conditions. Rain, fog, or high winds required adjustments to lantern positioning, modified movement patterns, and enhanced communication protocols. These adaptations were incorporated into training procedures, ensuring that the ceremony could be conducted effectively regardless of environmental challenges, while maintaining its essential character and security functions. The ceremony's conclusion marked the official transition of the tower from its daytime operational mode to its nighttime security posture. This transformation involved more than simple physical securing. It represented a shift in institutional focus from public business to private vigilance. The locked gates and doors created a protective barrier that allowed essential nighttime activities to proceed with appropriate security and discretion. Return attention gently to the main gate area with assembled guards and ceremonial lanterns. The participants in the ceremony understood their roles as links in an institutional chain that extended both backward and forward in time. They were custodians of traditions established by their predecessors and trustees responsible for transmitting these practices to future generations. This temporal perspective gave additional weight and meaning to what might otherwise seem routine security procedures. The keys themselves became symbols of the trust placed in the tower's personnel, representing authority delegated from the Crown through a chain of command that connected the highest levels of government with the practical details of daily operations. The careful handling and securing of these keys reflected the broader principle that institutional authority required both formal recognition and practical competence for its effective exercise. Documentation of the ceremony's completion was recorded in official logs that served both administrative and historical purposes. These records provided evidence that proper procedures had been followed, while creating a continuous historical record of the tower's security practices. The accumulated documentation represented institutional memory that could be consulted for precedent and guidance in unusual circumstances. The lanterns used in the ceremony were specially maintained for this purpose, their construction and fuel selected to ensure reliable operation during the critical moments when visibility was essential for safe and accurate completion of the locking procedures. The quality and positioning of this lighting reflected the ceremony's importance and the need for precision in its execution. Return attention gently to the main gate area with assembled guards and ceremonial lanterns. How did this ceremony connect past and present in an unbroken chain? The physical actions of turning keys and securing locks created tangible links with countless previous performances of the same ritual. The stones beneath the participants' feet had witnessed this ceremony for centuries, and the gates they secured had protected the tower's secrets through generations of political change and social transformation. Chief Yeoman Warder Blackwood completed the final locking sequence as his colleagues maintained their ceremonial positions, the ancient ritual concluding with the satisfaction of duty properly performed and trust faithfully maintained. The tower stood secure for another night, its gates locked and its secrets protected by the unbroken chain of institutional vigilance that connected each day's end with the promise of tomorrow's continued service. The first rays of sunlight touched the ancient stones of Tower Green with gentle warmth, transforming the medieval buildings from shadowed silhouettes into structures of warm grey and honey-coloured limestone. The morning light revealed architectural details that had been hidden in darkness-carved mouldings, weathered inscriptions, and the subtle variations in stonework that spoke of different building periods and craftsmen's individual styles. The tower awakened to another day with the quiet dignity of an institution that had witnessed nearly a millennium of English history. Dew glistened on the cobblestones of the courtyard, each drop catching and reflecting the early sunlight in tiny prisms of colour. The air carried the fresh scent of the Thames mixed with the lingering smoke from hearth fires that had burned through the night. Birds began their morning songs from perches on the battlements and towers, their voices adding natural music to the awakening fortress. The transition from night to day occurred with the gentle inevitability of countless previous dawns that had illuminated these same stones. Return attention gently to Tower Green with first sunlight illuminating the medieval buildings. The eternal mystery of the tower lay not in dramatic secrets or hidden conspiracies, but in the quiet accumulation of human experience within these walls. Generations of people had lived, worked, and served here, each adding their small contribution to the institution's continuing story. Their individual stories had largely faded into history, but their collective presence remained embedded in the stones and traditions that defined the tower's character. The buildings themselves served as witnesses to this accumulated history, their walls having absorbed the conversations, ceremonies, and daily routines of centuries. The White Tower's Norman architecture spoke of William the Conqueror's vision of royal power, while the later additions reflected changing needs and architectural styles across the medieval and early modern periods. Each stone had been placed by human hands, each room had sheltered human activities, each corridor had echoed with human voices. The morning light revealed the careful maintenance that preserved these ancient structures for contemporary use. Stone repairs were executed with materials and techniques that honored original construction methods while ensuring structural integrity. Windows that had been glazed and reglazed countless times continued to provide light and weather protection. Roofs that had sheltered generations of inhabitants remained sound and weatherproof through ongoing attention and traditional craftsmanship. The tower's role as both historical monument and working institution created unique challenges and opportunities. Modern administrative needs had to be balanced with preservation requirements, while public access had to be managed alongside security concerns. The solutions developed over time reflected careful consideration of how to honor the past while serving present needs, creating a model for institutional continuity that extended far beyond the tower itself. Return attention gently to Tower Green with first sunlight illuminating the medieval buildings. The morning's arrival brought renewed activity to spaces that had known continuous occupation for nearly 1,000 years. Kitchen staff began preparations for meals that would be served in halls where medieval kings had dined. Administrative clerks took their places at desks located in chambers where royal secretaries had once conducted state business. The continuity of function across centuries demonstrated the tower's enduring relevance and adaptability. The Thames flowed past the tower's walls as it had since before the fortress was built, its tidal rhythms providing a natural timekeeper that connected the institution with larger cycles of nature and geography. The river had brought materials for the tower's construction, had served as highway for royal processions and administrative business, and had carried away the daily effluent of fortress life. This geographic relationship anchored the tower in physical reality, while supporting its symbolic and administrative functions. The sounds of awakening London drifted across the water, and through the tower's walls church bells marking the canonical hours, the calls of street vendors beginning their daily rounds, the rumble of cart wheels on cobblestones. These external sounds reminded the tower's inhabitants of their connection to the broader community they served, while the fortress walls provided the security and isolation necessary for sensitive governmental functions. Gardens within the tower complex showed the first signs of spring growth, with bulbs pushing through soil that had been cultivated for centuries. The cycle of seasons provided natural rhythm to institutional life, marking the passage of time through changes in weather, daylight, and growing things. These natural cycles complemented the human rhythms of ceremony, administration, and daily routine that gave structure to life within the fortress. Return attention gently to Tower Green, with first sunlight illuminating the medieval buildings. The eternal mystery of the tower resided in its capacity to remain simultaneously ancient and contemporary, historical and functional, symbolic and practical. The morning light that illuminated its stones each day connected it with all previous mornings and promised continuation into an indefinite future, creating a sense of permanence that transcended the temporary concerns of any particular era. The tower's enduring fascination lay in its embodiment of institutional continuity across periods of dramatic social, political, and technological change. The same walls that had sheltered Norman administrators continued to house contemporary civil servants. The same ceremonial procedures that had marked medieval transitions of authority continued to structure modern institutional life. This continuity provided stability and meaning in a world of constant change. As morning established itself fully across the ancient fortress, the tower prepared for another day of service to crown and country, its stones warmed by sunlight that had illuminated these walls for nearly a millennium. The mysteries contained within its walls would continue to unfold slowly, revealed not through dramatic revelations, but through the patient accumulation of understanding that comes from sustained attention to detail and appreciation for institutional wisdom, accumulated across centuries of faithful service. The tower's story continued with each new day, each sunrise adding another chapter to a narrative that stretched from the Norman conquest toward an uncertain but promising future, where other royal residences across Europe maintained their own traditions of ceremony, administration, and institutional memory. Places like Versailles, where different stones held different secrets, and where morning light revealed other mysteries worthy of quiet contemplation and gentle exploration.